I realized that over time, the more competent a man you are, the more you do out in the real world, the more you do for your family. Life is just a string of failures with the occasional moment of perfection. It's that moment of perfection that goes back and justifies and redeems all those moments of failures. Like ask a person that's gone and run for Congress 10 different times, got defeated, but then they finally win. Everything's okay. Ask the president, right? Ask about all the indictments, stuff like that. He wins. Everything's okay. So you'll see that there's one moment on occasion that if you take the right choice in that one moment, it makes everything else, for the most part, disappear.
Let's impact some men today. I think we're going to do a great job.
Too many men are winning on paper, but losing themselves in the process, burned out, disconnected, and searching for more. Welcome to the Modern Man Podcast, where we connect men in pursuit of their potential. And I encourage you to join us as we embrace discomfort, cultivate community, and put wind in each other's sails. Now, really quick, I want to make sure that you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share this podcast with somebody else you know can get value from it. And don't forget, for the fellas that are watching, to check out the Noble Knights Men's Group. It's a community of men where you could find the support and the accountability you need to get and reach your goals. I'm excited because we're getting wind in our sails today from my guest, who is the author of the new book, 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning: How to Unlock Your Mind, Happiness, Power, and Your Enemy's Demise. With over 25 years in strategy, investing, and global negotiations, he has scaled companies to hundreds of employees, grown nonprofits across 53 countries, and spearheaded $5 billion in capital investment initiatives. His message synthesizes ancient wisdom, Christian tradition, leadership philosophy, and personal failures turned into transformative principles. It is my pleasure to have on the podcast today Rick Walker joining us to share some wisdom and some time. Rick, it's a pleasure to have you, brother.
And thanks so much for having me. Looking forward to today's conversation.
Absolutely. And I love giving the guests an opportunity to introduce themselves. The fun question I like to start with is plain and simple. You walk into a room, no one knows you or what you do. Rick, how do you introduce yourself?
Hey, I am Rick, and my boss is at home with the kids right now. That's the way I introduce myself, right? You got to start with the thing that's most core to you, and being a father, being a husband is most core to my identity.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I could relate. Being a father, when I come home, the smile on my daughter's face. She's at the phase now as a toddler, 18, going to be 18 months old. She runs, gives me a kiss before going to bed. I try and commit that to memory because I
Yeah.
know it's only going to be a matter of time before she's running away from me to go hop in a car, go drive to be with her friends or something like that. But um, you mentioned the fatherhood piece and the boss being at home. I know we say that jokingly, but what gets you out of bed in the morning? What motivates you to continue to pursue this mission that you've found and that you've been driving down?
So you have to understand where you are in the hierarchy. Uh, I believe that the most important thing that we do isn't something that we do, but it's those who we raise. And my job is to go outside the home and provide for the home. And that my wife's job is the most important job. She's actually doing the raising while I'm out, sort of killing the meat and providing opportunities that hopefully keep us safe long term. Um,
Yeah.
we have to also realize is if you think about your context within your entire family, right? You've got most of us have parents. A lot of our parents are gone, but a lot of parents are still alive. And we've got a wife and we've got kids, some of us. And we have to realize like what's the most important thing because you can't always be a great father and be a great husband at the same time. You ignore your wife and go spend time with your kids. You can also get in a situation where you're trying to take care of your parents, you ignore your wife, and you got to figure out this triangle entanglement of relationships. And I discovered what my parents want most and what my wife wants most is really for me to be a great dad and to teach those grandkids the proper way to be a husband, to be a leader, to be a father. And I can love my wife by taking care of my kids. I can love my parents or respect my parents by teaching my kids to respect their mother. And so it's a
Yeah.
triangulation of responsibilities that starts with me being a father first and foremost, because that's how I show my wife my love and my parents respect.
Yeah. I love that answer because to be transparent with the audience, and this might be a little counterculture for some, but having our 18-month-old, she went to bed last night, and we've been dealing with a lot, and my business is ramping up. And I just said to my wife really quick, I said, "Hey, I'm sorry if I haven't been more present in this season for you. I'm just navigating some things." And she was quick to say, "Oh, no, you're good. I'm sorry if I haven't been the ideal wife to you. I've been caught up with raising Savvy." And I was like, "I just want you to know you're still my number one." And my wife is like, "Oh, don't, you're still my number one." And most people here like, "Shouldn't your kids be number one?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. My wife is number one. Our union, our child is the product of our union, and we're going to be emulating this healthy relationship." But I understand that we have a value of family, and while our value is family, our priorities right now require us to attend to certain things. So your values can be consistent. Please elaborate on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also the most practical thing for you to right now take care of your kids, because if you're like most of us, we're older than our wives, and our wives are out live longer than we are anyway, in
Yeah.
addition to us being older. And so it's you need the kids to have a proper understanding of the role of the mother and the respect for the mother if you're able to have anyone to be able to take care of your own wife after you're gone. It's a
Mm.
very practical thing as well, right? The two shall become one flesh, and it doesn't say that you stop being one flesh. There's some verses there we say that you won't be given in marriage in heaven, but it's still your responsibility. In fact, you're responsible for everyone you encounter, whether you're related to them or not. You're responsible for what they see. You will be responsible for the things that the unjust things that the eyes of the innocents around you see, and you'll be held accountable for that one day. Dostoevsky says that we're responsible for one another, and that's the height of love, but it's also the height of justice.
Mm.
But yeah, yeah, we've got to figure out a way that we can absorb and take on the responsibility, which you're called. And it's my job, I feel, as my calling is to rip away the comfort enslaving that potential for you to go be able to take responsibility of one, then two, maybe another family or two, as you go forth, and God forbid a company of families one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And um as we go through that, that's why one of the values for the modern man and the noble knights is embracing discomfort, right? And there are times where life will challenge us, right? No test, no testimony, where we are going to be in a position where our integrity will be tested. And how we show up is really how we can dictate and move forward. So given the successes that you've experienced and that you've had, and the life you've been able to provide for those around you and those that depend on you. A lot of folks could see the accolades, the titles, and the end game, but I'm curious as to the failures that made the man. What are some of the tests that Rick endured that led to your current testimony?
Well, so I've failed much more often than I've succeeded. John Maxwell says sometimes you fail and sometimes you learn. Um, and so I realized that over time, the more competent a man you are, the more you do out in the real world, and the more you do for your family. Life is merely a string of failures with occasional moment of perfection. I repeat that. That's important. Life is just a string of failures with the occasional moment of perfection. It's that moment of perfection that goes back and justifies and redeems all those moments of failures. Like ask the person that's gone and run for Congress 10 different times, got defeated, but then they finally win. Everything's okay. Ask the president, right? Ask about all the indictments, stuff like that. He wins. Everything's okay. Everything's okay. So you'll see that there's one moment on occasion that if you take the right choice in that one moment, it makes everything else, for the most part, disappear. All the failures disappear. But failure is also about the iterations, about the practice, it's about getting your reps in order to build competency. And the unique thing is that your identity is only a function of your competency and your integrity. In fact, it's a mathematical formula. Your competency plus your integrity over time become your identity. Your
Mm.
competency plus your integrity over time become your identity. And it takes reps. It takes reps to do the right thing when things are hard, when comfort is begging you to give in. That's your integrity. But it's also your competency, the repetition of trying to figure out the right way, the right strategy, the right conversation to have. And in general, the thing that you least want to do is the thing you most need to do next. And that's what men need to learn.
Yeah. Speaking of men, I know you focus a lot on the men ages 25 to 45. And pouring into them with some of these principles, some of these ideals and values. Why do you think it's so important for that age group to grasp this?
So I'm 46. So I've just escaped the age group by about 6 months now.
Yeah.
So,
Swoop.
I made it through, right? I made it through it. I'm still kicking, and I made a lot of failures, and I put a lot of the failures in the book as well. Whether losing a political campaign, almost losing my family, uh, just the economics of my business just being wiped out. I've had a lot of losses and a lot of failures. A lot of them are self-caused as well. In fact, I'm taking responsibility for all of them in the end. Um, it's this group of men who is at that launching point, that point between the potential and their concrete destiny. And they were promised when they were younger by school teachers, by their grandma, by their mom, by society. They were promised all these things. You'll be successful. I believe in you. When you get out, you go to college, you can have anything you want in life. They were promised love. They were promised all these things, whether it be through the provocation of pornography. They were promised love, or through by seeing a caring couple in their church or in their community that were elderly, and they saw that love stand up over time and through difficulty. They were shown all these things, but in the end, where did it come from? No one ever told them the pathway to that. The pathway to that looks like failure, looks like rejection, looks like hardship, looks like the unsexy things of life that never get posted online. And so they never had a vision of what could come. They never saw that the missing components that glued to that was the rejection of comfort and the embracing of pain, because pain in the end becomes the only pathway to joy. They never got that message. And so that's why my heart breaks for these men. But I also want to show them that you can, in the end, have it all. You could have it all. You can have the family, you've got the wife, you can make the monetary side of things click. But you can also have this understanding that you can go and be emboldened to do more for those around you. In fact, having a vision for those around you is the only way you're able to gain any relevance or meaning at all in your own life. And so
Hmm.
that's why my heart really speaks and really sings for these young men. I'm showing them a positive vision of what is possible, but I'm using the negative things that they don't want out of life, the pain, the hurt, the poverty, as a way to be able to escape that.
Yeah, and what we've learned is the things that we try to avoid as men still control us, right? We might
Yeah.
say, "Oh no, no, I'm going this way," but it's still pushing you in a direction. So you're not necessarily chasing the carrot; you're avoiding the bear, and that's still a form of control somewhere, somehow, some way. I want to focus on some of the attacks on men because I do feel like we live at a time where we need to be defensive, and what I mean by that technology, the access, you mentioned pornography, the things at our fingertips, the access to vices such as alcohol and so many other things, even working out. Folks see me, they're like, "Oh, Ted, I can tell you work out," but like there are people who use working out as a way to escape their reality. There are people who use their jobs and their ambition as a way to escape the troubles in their marriage. So I want to talk a little bit about how men could play defense for some of the threats that are surrounding us from that destiny. You mentioned the potential and the destiny. We might know what the path looks like, but what are some of the wolves and the monsters along the path that we should look out for, and how can we defend ourselves?
I'm going to give you two practical things because I think we've got to sometimes take the idea out of the philosophical and put it into the material. We've got to give guys things that they need to do. The
Yeah.
first thing that I want every man that's watching to do is this two step, and I write about it in my book. I want you to install a motion sensor light in your closet, and I want you to have the only charger for your phone in your house in your closet at night. So
Okay.
there's a couple things that's going to happen. Your alarm's going to go off in the morning, and you're going to set it as early as you possibly can stand. And you're going to get up out of bed. You're going to go into that closet. Your light's going to turn on automatically, and you're going to turn that alarm off. You're not going to hit snooze. You're turn that alarm off, and you're going to realize, hell, I'm already standing up. I'm wide awake because the light just came on. I might as well just throw some clothes on because you set your clothes out the night before, your workout clothes, your work clothes, whatever it might be. You just go and throw them on. Just throw them on. 60 seconds later, you're wide awake. You're fully dressed. Brush your teeth. Do your hair. Get in the car and go to work or go to the gym. Get out of the house as early as possible, but never snooze. Never snooze, and never go to bed with your phone by you. I mean, if you do that, if you do that, you've at least won the effort game first thing in the morning. I started doing them many years ago. I had a very successful friend that was, had a much larger company, better looking than I, had more money, had better connections than I had. But he was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was getting up at 5. He was already beat me for an hour. Like I was sleeping. I was literally doing nothing while he was out hustling. He was building strategy. He was reading. He was becoming a better person. He was working out. And like you're competing against very, very serious individuals in your work and in your home. Like there are better looking men who are better fit, better well read, have more money than you that would love to sleep with your wife. Like that that's just a cold hard fact. That's just a cold hard fact. You got to become better. You got to become better. So that's number one. Keep your phone plugged in and use a motion sensor light in the other room. The second thing I encourage men to do is to figure out a way that you can get whatever's tempting you. I know a lot of guys are just tempted with pornography. Leave your only computer in your house in your living room or in your kitchen. Like go set it up in your laptop, whatever it is, and it only stays there. It only stays there. Like that's the only rule. The rule isn't like don't look at porn. The rule is like the computer stays there. Now, unless you're a complete deviant, you're not going to look at crazy stuff with your kids and your wife in the house, right? Just keep it there. Just keep it there. Keep in mind what I'm doing is I'm talking about the placement of objects. I'm not talking about the change that happens. I'm thinking about the placement of objects because the placement of objects and having these silly little rules like I never snooze or I don't move my computer. These little silly rules work over time. And again, if you can, your job as a man is only to get three things aligned. It's only to get three things aligned. Number one is your quiet time. You better have some quiet time. You got to get your quiet time. Good quality quiet time is in the morning. It's not at night after you wasted all your energy. Number two, you've got to get your dinner table right. It's what happens around that dinner table, whether you're married or you're in a relationship with a bunch of friends. It's what happens around the dinner table that'll give your life meaning. And then number three, it's the books you read. If you get your books that you read, your dinner table, and your quiet time right, you'll have more than everything. You'll be able to conquer the entire world with those three things aligned.
Absolutely. If I may, a little bit of poetic justice, I'm gonna add number four, and the brotherhood you surround yourself with, because you don't want to do it
Yeah,
alone, right?
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
um, that's fantastic. Now, for anyone who's taking on the placement of the products, not snoozing, and they take on these habits, um, what are some of the changes they see within self along the way? And maybe you could use your own self as an example in terms of these routines. I love the set up your clothes the night before, something I do in order to start my day appropriately. And even when I coach clients, I mention, they say, what does your morning routine look like? Well, my morning routine starts the night before, if I'm being honest with everybody. Um, but the result of that was who I became over time. So when someone moves their phone in the closet, they have their computer out in the common room, and they're embodying some of these behaviors based off of the placement of their products. What are some of the things that you notice come out of the man?
Yeah. So for me, for instance, that friend that was getting at 4 and I was getting at 5, I realized I had to compete against him. There's him and that sort of type of person, that type of person that'll go defeat me on the business on the business around the business table, defeat me in competition for my for my wife. There's these
Mhm.
men all over the place that are more competent, just better period than me. And so I started ratcheting my time back. So my 5 o'clock became 4:45, became 4:30, 4:15. And I finally get back down to 3:15 a.m. is what I started. My wake up time was. It was a
Woo!
little bit too early, so I bumped it back to 3:30. 3:30 has been a nice consistent spot for me for I don't know 2.5 years. It's been very very consistent. Now think about what happens. So my alarm goes off at 3:30. I get up, my light turns on. I'm fully dressed in 30 seconds. Brush my teeth, brush my hair, throw my shoes on, and I'm in the car. And I can get to the office by like 4:10, 4:15. And by that time, like I'm ready to like, man, I got to have a latte. My favorite latte machine, since nothing else is open at 4:15 in the morning, is at my
Yeah.
office. So I make myself a latte. I go upstairs, and my only rule when I get to the office is no screens until 8 a.m. No screens until 8 a.m. And so I sit down on my favorite couch, my favorite latte, and I start reading. And I try to read whatever's oldest. So I try to read things that are at least 1,000 or 2,000 years. first thing. And I have a stack of books that I sort of work my way through in the morning. But think about that. So between 4:15 or so and 8 a.m., I've done more reading than most men have an entire year. Now I'm
Yep.
also doing some paper strategy. I'm also thinking through some things, but I'm staying off the devices primarily. And so I've just done more learning in one morning than most men do in a year, probably than 99% of men do in a month. And then it's 8 o'clock. And then I can put in generally a 10 to 12 hour workday on top of that. I'm trying to leave by 5:30. Occasionally I'll do some business dinners, and then I'll work for an hour or two after the kids go to bed at night. And so I'm working on average, probably like I'm doing real work. I'm not like logging in for like in my bathrobe like a lot of
Yeah.
Americans are, but I'm doing real work. So I'm doing twice as much work. I'm doing maybe 30x the learning of most people every single day. And so my iterations are getting better. So if I have 25 years in like hard years in experience, since I've been working double days my entire life, I have 50 years of experience, but the energy of a 45-year-old, and my learning's been 30x on a daily basis compounding. So my iterations, my failures, my things I'm able to try are able to speed up because I'm able to recognize earlier, because I have a better intuition, recognize earlier what's working, what's not working, and I can fail faster. And that's the key, is trying to figure out how
Mm.
you can fail faster, and then try to figure out what worked, what didn't work, and then set yourself back up again and go back there and try again. And so that's the way you've got to think. You got to think about compound advantage. You got to think about outworking even the fabled competitor, and then learning and growing at a faster rate than everybody else.
That's fantastic. And I feel like I know the answer. And before I go to my next question, I want to touch on the old books because that was something I wrote down in my notes. Because I love that. And my father, I have a small bookshelf behind me for folks that are watching. My wife made me put up most of them, but my dad has multiple bookshelves. His whole statement is, "When I pass, I'm giving you these books." And his one thing is like, "But you better read them." And
Yeah.
we're talking old books, philosophers. Um, and my dad, one of the smartest men I know. What is it you get from old books, and why would you encourage the men listening and watching to read old books as well? If iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. But if you're a man and you're alone or listening to this, then who sharpens you? What's going on, guys? Ted Phaeton here, host of the Modern Man podcast, also founder of the Noble Knights Mastermind Group. And I'm just out here encouraging you to find your circle. Maybe you're on a personal growth journey and nobody around you understands the new mentality that you're possessing. That's okay. You can find an online community that will pour into you, will navigate your goals and navigate your obstacles, share their experiences, resources, and more. Join the Noble Knights Mastermind Group and try us out for free to tap into a community of men helping each other scale up and reach their goals. Check out themodernmanpodcast.com.
So every newer book is sourced in a book that's older. Like that's how knowledge happens. It's not that new knowledge is being created; it's that new knowledge is just a take on old knowledge. And so if you kind
Mm.
of think about knowledge that way, you kind of think of it like everything that's been written in the 1900s was existed in the 1800s, because there's just people reading other older books that are then trying to come up with new theories. There's nothing new under the sun. And so as you push that back, you realize even the older ideas are more well proven. So for instance, there's not a lot of books that are 1,000 or 2,000 years that still have stood the test of time, that don't have anything, any nonsense in them. It's time cures the ideas. And I like to say, like for men, the older the sage, the quicker the solution. If you're looking for a solution, go older. Don't go newer. Um, and so if we go back, a thousand or 2,000 years or 2,500 years, we're starting to get into ancient Jewish literature. You're starting to get into the Tao Te Ching. You're starting to get into Homer and the Odyssey there. And by the way, I write a lot about Homer's Odyssey in the book, and Alexander the Great. We started getting into those sorts of time tested stories, and those stories, those modes of thinking, those principles, like the books you're reading today, even like the George R. R. Martin and Lewis and Tolkien and all that kind of, are just different recitations of those stories. And so
Mm.
why go and read the filtered down, watered down version of the truth, like the source text for that? So like, let me give you an idea. Like like this morning, I read. I'll always read some Jewish scriptures. So I was in Isaiah. I was in Psalms. I was in First Samuel, which is basically a history book of how Israel got its first kings. Then I was in the Tao Te Ching. I was reading, ancient Asian cultures about the Tao, the Yin and the Yang, a lot of leadership principles there. I also read some Tolstoy. I think from the early 1900s, late 1800s. I think is when he was there. And then I read some Goddard, which is early 1900s, about controlling your mind, how your mind activates reality. It's some kind of far out stuff. I wouldn't
Wow.
openly talk about that far out stuff there. And then there was one other thing, and then I just got a book about William Blake. Some of his poetry in today, so I'm going to start that tomorrow. But I generally have like 4 or 5 6 books that I'm reading through during that time. Some books I only read, a page or two. Some books I will read 12. So the main book outside of the whole, like the Holy Scriptures, I'll generally read 12 pages out of every day. Just day in,
Mm.
day out, 12 pages is a good click. And then everything else I'm sampling, and then I'll occasionally go back. I try to reread one book at a time. So I'll put flags in these books, key principles. I have these different codes that I'll put in. I'll write in next to different lines about based off what the line's about or what the value is there of it. And I'll flip through those and I'll refamiliar myself with some of that work. A couple times a week.
Yeah. I also feel as though there was a natural filter in the world back then because, I mean, the access to write books, I could just open up a Word document, throw a
Yeah,
few 100,000 words on it, put in a PDF, and publish it on Amazon tomorrow. Congratulations, I'm an author. I have a book. Um, but books back then, they weren't easy to
oh
to
yeah.
write and document and put out like that. That's some real effort and selfless work to regurgitate the information and the wisdom that you've acquired over your life. So I feel as though life had a natural filter of wisdom back then.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, if you're going to spend a week's salary on a piece of paper, you're going to think about what you're going to write on that piece of paper.
Yeah, yeah. Ink is not limitless in the past. Now, I do want to bring in some research here. This was a research study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, and it shows that adversity could lead to post-traumatic growth. We've spoken about this on a previous podcast episode. Not many folks know about post-traumatic growth, but this reshapes priorities, fostering deeper meaning. Something that you touch on. I'm curious as to how facing fear can help us unlock this ferocity within us when we don't run away, going back to the things that control us, the bear. But when we face those fears, when we face the adversity, how that could actually lead to more growth and more purpose and meaning in life.
So adversity is a sharpening tool. Fear is only the thought that you would reject comfort. Right, safety is only a comfort. It's a form. It's a form of comfort. Stephen Pressfield, in his book *The War of Art*, calls it a resistor or a resistance to work. It's something it's an excuse you're trying to come up that is not a legitimate reason for not doing your work, for not facing the enemy you're called to face, for not doing the thing that you don't want to do. This just leads us right back to the thing that you least want to do is the thing you most need to do next. And generally, it's an enemy. It's an enemy that you don't want to face. It's a type of work that you don't enjoy, or that will make you look weak or make you look like a failure. Um, but it is that sharpening element of it. It's that overcoming fear is in itself a sharpening. Um, and there's these side quests there that you're trying to avoid. You're trying to avoid awkwardness, discomfort. You're trying to avoid just flat out pain. But in the end, what you discover, and I read probably 1,000 books to prepare me to write for this one book, and so I've done a lot of research um, about these sorts of themes. In the end, you discover that your life was built out of the contrast, not out of the comfort, not out of the joy, not out of the happiness. So the deeper the pain, the higher the joys. The deeper the
Yeah.
spread, between the trough and the peak, if you think about it as a wave, between the trough and the peak, that is where the value in life is made. And consequently, long after you're gone, those are the things that your kids and your grandkids will tell stories about. It's the deeper the pain and the higher the joy. That's the person that kind of lived with a little bit of pain, a little bit of joy, never really took great risk. No one cares about those people. Those people are long forgotten. You want to be forgotten, embrace comfort and don't take any risks. Like that's a great way to make sure you're forgotten. Like it won't even take your grandkids forgetting you. Like your grandkids will never even know your name. Like
Yeah.
that's the way it works. So you've got to think about like how do you create with your life the best possible story that other people will want to tell, not just your kids, but maybe your grandkids and your great grandkids. And if you can create that story, that beautiful narrative, I like to call it, you can create a little bit of beauty out of your story. That's how you get some endurance. And endurance, the greater the endurance, the greater the relevance with your life. Like in the end, Ted, no one will give a damn about our lives unless we heighten the love or destroy the evil. Like those are the only two ways that we're going to be remembered, whether we heighten the love or destroyed an evil.
Yeah. I always talk about a lot of guys are stuck living life at a 6, and maybe they get up to a 7, but the only reason they get up to the 7 is because 'cause they're not willing to go deeper than the 4, right? Like, once they get to the
Yeah.
4, like, "No, no, 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 I'm back up to the 5, 6," and they're in this 4 to 7 range or 4 to 6 range, and that's the only range within their lives, but if they are
Yeah.
willing to go to the depths of the 2 and the 1, then they get the peaks of the 9 and the 10s of life, and that's really what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the man who's looking for the risk-free reward. Yeah, that is the man who's brilliant and he's thinking everyone around his bosses included are idiots for not realizing his brilliance and he deserves to made more. He puts the blame on everybody else, and that's why he stays kind of a 3, 4, 5. Um, and you want to know this is some men are going to get pissed off by this, but let me tell you, you know the
Hit
way you
us.
can recognize the way you can recognize that man is you look at him with the woman he's dating or look at him with his wife. Um, you can tell the competency of a man by looking at his wife. Why is that? Because you look at me. Let's say I'm a 4. Let's say I'm a 4 on a 0 to 10 scale, and my wife is a 10. I'll say she's a 9 just for mathematical purposes. You see my 4 and you see her 9. You can infer that I have a competency of 5 that spans the delta, right?
Mhm.
You can infer that competency there. A man that only has potential and the potential only exists in his mind, it doesn't really exist in reality. Um, he will be with a woman that is of equal or even lesser um, visual attractiveness of himself. And that's how you can that is the man you want to stay away from because he's always blaming everybody else. He's always blaming everyone else, and he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. It's this ego, it's this pride that never materializes. And that's actually the saddest type of man because that's the man that never becomes anything. Um, but he's only a danger to himself, and he trains his kids to live in that same sort of mentality, and so he
Mm.
propagates danger in that. But you can easily identify that person. Very bright, doesn't work very hard, and his wife is of equal or lesser stature on this 0 to 10 spectrum.
Oh, yeah, and then you see the other guy where you're just like, "How did he get hurt?" That's the guy, who has that gap in the competency.
Oh
I
yeah,
I I wanna touch on the book, 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning, first, again, pulling out some research, it's 2022, a systematic review in Frontiers in Psychology found that people with higher meaning in life report greater well-being, resilience, and lower levels of depression and anxiety, something that's running rampant in our country these days. Anxiety, depression, we have pharmaceutical companies making bank off of this. But if we could live a life of meaning, we could alleviate these in a holistic way. So I'm curious as to the inception of the book, the idea of the book and the process that led to it. And then we could jump into maybe some samples of those steps along the way as well. But please, what first led you down this path of I need to document this?
Yeah, reviewing the work of Dr. John Vervaeke, who also gave me a blurb on the back of the book. He's written a great book about the meaning crisis, about these men in the same sort of age group and what's happening through them. You hear Elon Musk talking about the birth rate decline. Men aren't just having kids anymore. I was talking to a family member, and she's got a couple of young sons in their late teens, early 20s, and she was talking about just last night how they've never dated anyone. They don't even talking about dating anyone. Like that's a if you kind of drag and drop that out into the future, that has a significant decline on birth rates in our society over the long term. And so I saw this, but then more even closer to home, I'm a dad with three girls, and they're telling me the same thing in school. These boys aren't asking girls out. There might be 1 out of 10 that's asking girls out, but the other ones they're not. They don't even think about girls. They don't even think about girls. These are kids. I have two daughters that are in high school saying this, and so I thought to myself, what are the odds that any of the boys that my daughters ever date, if they even ever date anybody, right? I don't know what society's shaking out to be. That those boys will have a father who's as intentional as I am. Probably pretty low. Probably pretty low. You guys like you and me, Ted, we're outliers. Like we're gonna put the hard work in with our kids. And so putting two and two together, that the the boys that my daughters will probably have to marry are probably just going to be boys. They're not probably going to be men. They never been
Mm,
told how to be a man. Um, and so what I wrote was the densest, richest, easiest to read instruction manual that I'm going to hand these three sons-in-laws one day. That's going to teach them how to be a man. Now, I'm going to have to put the work in with them as well, but this is a good primer to get them on their way. Because if those men don't exist, I'm going to have to build them.
mm. Man, and we know that's hard work, right? We've heard that it's easier to raise strong men than fix broken ones. But listen, one of my favorite poems, Rudyard Kipling. If I could stoop with
Oh
worn out
yeah,
tools and build again, brother. Like, hey, let's get to work. Let's get
yeah,
to work.
yeah.
So, what do those steps look like? You don't have to give all nine. I know that there's going to be, and obviously we can't even encompass all nine in the time that we have left. I'm sure, as you mentioned, how dense this work is. But what are some of the steps that some of the men listening here? Because I will tell you, you and I might be outliers, but our listeners, they're of that cut as well. They're cut from the same cloth. They're a branch of the same tree, and they're looking for this material. So, what are some of the initial steps they can take before that book gets delivered to their house?
This is the big differentiator. Let me give you the big differentiator. This is step number one. If you go out and you watch the people on YouTube, you listen to the podcast, what you'll find out is a lot of people in this space are academics. They're professional thinkers. They're writers. They're people that have never really lived a full and meaningful life. They've done a lot of really great things, but they haven't come from the world of doers. And I'm coming from the world of doers. Like I've read a little bit, I've studied a little bit, but I'm do negotiations every single day. Like that's my job is I negotiate. I got to fight for what I have. I don't eat. I don't eat anything unless I kill it first. I mean, it's been that way
Mm,
for 25 years. And so what I suspected was people that grew up like I did. And I'm the type of guy that I remember growing up, I was in the back of the grocery store digging for dented cans in the dumpster so we had something to eat. Like that's how I grew up. We grew up in a two-bedroom house. We didn't have any money, just very, very difficult upbringing. And when I grew up, I realized that I did not want that. I did not want to struggle. I didn't want my wife to have to work three jobs like my mom worked. I did not want to struggle. I did not want to be able to work like my dad was a lot of times. But I didn't never had a positive vision of what I wanted. I never had that kind of a mission or an objective. And I certainly couldn't build the tactics up to that. I couldn't figure out how to get there. I never even met a wealthy person. And then I started my first business when I was in college. By the time I was 26, I grew up to 400 W-2 employees, and then I started some other businesses after that, and did a lot of great things financially. But I didn't do that because I had a positive vision. I did that because I had a negative vision of what I didn't want. And so I started thinking like all these smart people online are telling us how like we got to have a vision, we got to have dreams of what we want to do. But those of us that didn't never had a dream, we never saw a father that was properly functioning, that was able to go out and kill stuff. My dad was imperfect, just like I am, um, and how do we bust out of it? Well, we got to get these men to move first. And the way that we get men to move is we have to realize that the purpose of light, Ted, is to invade the darkness. Therefore, the purpose of a good man is to invade the evil that he sees around him. We all see evil. We see child trafficking. We see the pornography websites that don't respect minors. We see the fentanyl in our schools. We see the drug overdose. We see the alcoholism that's affecting our families and our brothers and our sisters and our parents. We see all these manifest evils around us. What are we doing about it? So my encouragement is to pick one manifest evil and just destroy it. Like that's a negative thing that you do not want to exist. And if you pick the right enemy, you pick a worthy enough enemy around you, um, you will be able to cobble together the competency and the opportunity to go and fight it. And through doing that, you'll be able to learn the competency, you'll be able to learn a little bit of integrity, you'll be able to fight for something that's bigger and bolder than you are. Um, you're able to pick a worthy enemy. That gives you the stepping off point to be able to cobble together a little bit of energy and move forward through the rest of the 9 steps. And so that's what I encourage men to do first off. If you don't know what you want, find out what you don't want to exist. And if it's an
Mm.
evil manifestation in the world, well, that's a pretty damn good start.
Yeah. Oh man, that's fantastic. And a lot of guys might be thinking, yeah, I am in no way, shape, or form to take on the enemy yet, right? And it's like David looking at Goliath. This is a giant, but the enemy will help you rise to the occasion. And you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great and taking that
Yes.
first step, right? And God doesn't call the chosen; He prepares the called, and
Yes.
He's going to be pulling you into the future. So I want the men, as we are fired up right now. You probably hear my energy going up after what you just said. I want to keep that going and keep that flame going into action. Where can folks find you, Rick? Where can folks connect with you, and where can folks get the book?
Yeah. So first off, I do a free newsletter every 2 weeks. I'll do a free newsletter. You can sign up for it at rickwalker.com. I don't have a paid newsletter. I don't do any training. I don't do any classes. I don't have any groups. It's a paid newsletter at rickwalker.com. I mean, it's a free newsletter at rickwalker.com. It comes out every 2 weeks. And then I've got a book it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, everywhere. Amazon's great. I think the Kindle version right now it kind of fluctuates between 99 cents and $10 there, but the paperback's on there. I encourage people to read that. I give you the full 9 step process to be able to go through that. Um, it has been one of the interesting things to watch and see some of the comments. If you go on the Amazon page,
Yeah.
I was hoping, Ted, to have like 20 to 100 comments and reviews by the end of the first month. And it's been live for less than 2 months now. I think we just hit 370 reviews in the first kind of 45, 50 days of it. And it's like a 4.9 star. It's it number one bestseller, not only on the business self improvement, but also business leadership, business motivation, and also Christian men's living, which is not, I mean, I dropped the F bomb in the book. I don't know why it's on the Christian men's living list, but it did. But all of those for the Kindle version in the first week or two. And so I'm not sure what's happening, but the comments that I'm getting are that men are being really impacted by the book, and there's some hope in it. And so I'm not saying that's me, but I'm saying that maybe it's God trying to use a different type of message, not from academics, but from guys like you and me that are out in the real world and just trying to share some lessons.
Absolutely, and amen to that. I love that the guys because I do think this is wanted, it's needed, and that's the reason we have these conversations. I started this because my purpose, my mission is connecting men in pursuit of their potential. Saw the suicide rate amongst men. I saw the mental health crisis amongst men, and I identified that we are isolated. So what I can do with the gifts God's given me, being the gift of gab, is connect men, have these conversations, and facilitate it. And that is why I do what I do. That is my enemy. That is the evil in this world that I am waking up every single day to eliminate. But I would love my last question for you to share with the audience. What is something you've seen or something that's happened to you that shapes the way you view the world as a man?
I've seen just a moment of complete and utter holiness is what I would call it. Holiness, not in the God perspective, but holiness. Um, as I look, and I'm going to start this, I'm going to end the same way I started. As I sit around the dinner table with my girls and my wife, and I know a lot of men don't have that yet, um, but it's possible. If one man's done it, another man can do it. Watching during that dinner table of my oldest looking at my middle daughter as she's getting ready to prepare to tell a joke, because she does the same jokes, the same mannerisms, the same impressions every night at dinner. And for my youngest daughter to look at her mom as her mom is anticipating the middle daughter telling the joke, and then me to look at all of them and see that reflection of what a true family was meant to be, bouncing off of one another, the expectation, the anticipation, the preparation to be able to deliver the joke, all in play in one setting. And you can't help but see that and understand and truly believe down at your core that there's something more to us, that you were meant to do something more with your life. And it may not be in the pursuit of business. It may not be in doing the same type of things that I've done and Ted's done, but it may be in who you raise and the relationships that you develop. Um, and in the end, your meaning and your purpose come from the object of that life. What are you directing your life toward? That is what gives it its meaning, not what you do. And so it was that one moment that really brought a lot. And so, by the way, I forgot to mention a second ago. If there's any men that are watching that can't afford the book, reach out to me like on X or on LinkedIn or something like that. I'd be happy to send you a copy of the book for free. My desire is just to help as many men as possible. In fact, I got a pallet of books in yesterday. A pallet. 1,000 books, pallet of books.
Nice.
They dropped it off without telling me they were coming. I had to unload the whole pallet myself. I got cases and cases down there. So anyway, but yeah, if there's any men that can't afford it, just reach out to me and let me. Hey, Rick, I'd love to have a book. Just can't afford it, and I'll be happy to send you one.
That's fantastic. Amen to that, brother. Author of the new book, 9 Steps to Build a Life of Meaning, How to Unlock Your Mind, Happiness, Power, and Your Enemy's Demise. Rick Walker, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Peace.
I'm going to recap some of the gems that you left along the way, Rick, because a lot of our audience, they're driving, they're working out, they're cleaning while listening. If you're working out, you got one more set, bro, back under the bar. But the most important thing we do isn't what we do, it's who we raise. What is the echo of life that you're leaving? One of my favorite movies, Gladiator, The Things We Do in Life, Echo in Eternity. I've failed much more than I've succeeded. If you're in the string of failures, you only need to be right once, right? You could date a whole bunch, but you have to find your wife once. You could start a bunch of businesses, but you only need that success once. And then potential to your destiny. How are you going to get there? Your competency and your integrity added together equals your identity. And the pathway from your potential to that destiny will look like failure. It will look like rejection. It will look like pain, but you must endure and walk that path anyway. Put a motion sensor light in your closet. The only charger for your phone, put it in your closet. We're not talking about your habits. We're talking about the placement of objects in order for your behaviors to follow suit. That way you can pull out the man that you are hoping to become. You're competing with someone who's better looking, someone who's working harder, someone who's faster, smarter, and they're coming after what you got. They're coming for your cookies. That's what we used to say in basketball. Cookies. You're coming for your cookies. Are you going to protect your cookies? Are you going to elevate yourself? Are you going to continue to wake up earlier and be better? The older the sage, the quicker the solution. Fail fast, move faster, outwork the best, and then safety is just a form of comfort. So if you're afraid, that thing you're afraid of is likely the thing you must do. I don't eat anything unless I kill it first. Man, when you said that, I just had to put that in there. I don't eat anything unless I kill it first. Guys, let that sink in. And then pick one manifested evil that you no longer want in this world and destroy it. Step 1, identify the evil and destroy it. Because in order for evil to succeed, it requires good men to do nothing. And if you're listening to this, you are a good man. Time to pick up your sword, but don't do that before you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. It's the best compliment that you can give us. And make sure you follow Rick, get the book, and of course, take those 9 steps so you could have a meaningful life. And as always, share this with someone else that you know can get value from it as well. We would really love for you to help get the word out as this podcast continues to impact men and connect others in pursuit of their potential. Thanks for making it to the end, guys. And as we always say, everybody wants the sunshine, but they don't want the rain. But you can't get the pleasure without first the pain. Let's grow.